Imagine the wind whipping through your hair as you stand on the deck of a sleek warship cutting through churning waves, the salty spray stinging your face. The sun glints off the polished bronze of oared triremes stretching to the horizon, an endless armada glinting like polished weapons of a waterborne deity. Behind you, dozens of sailors lean on their oars, eyes fixed on your every gesture. You raise your hand, and the fleet shifts course as one. You are a woman in a man's world, and every decision you make will tip the scales of fate for entire empires. This is Artemisia of Caria, naval commander, strategist, confidant to kings. And today, her story is about to shatter everything you thought you knew about power and war in the ancient world. She was born around 480 BC in Halicarnassus, a bustling Greek polis perched on jagged cliffs overlooking the azure Aegean. Her father Ligdames ruled under the shadow of Persia, while her mother, whose name has vanished from record books, likely came from a local aristocratic family. From her earliest days, Artemisia watched the comings and goings of diplomats, scribes, and mercenary captains in her father's marble-floored palace. She learned to ride horses bareback along the rocky shore, to string bows so stiff they could peel bark from trees, and to speak both Greek, so admired across the Mediterranean, and Carian, the tongue of her native land. She pored over clay tablets that recorded alliances and trade pacts, absorbing the art of negotiation alongside the clank of armor in the courtyard, where her brothers sparred. Some say she even studied the strategies of Egyptian pharaohs and Hittite warlords, texts smuggled into the palace by traders seeking favor. As a teenager, she found her true calling in the harbor. She would slip past palace guards at dawn and stand on the prow of merchant vessels, watching sailors haul nets bulging with fish and barter with Phoenician traders for cedar wood and Tyrian purple. She saw strategy in the way ships maneuvered in tight spaces and discipline in crews who rowed in perfect unison. By her late teens, she was as comfortable on a deck as any seasoned helmsman, and far more visionary. Local fishermen still tell tales of how she once navigated a storm-battered ship to safety using only the stars, a feat that earned her the nickname Poseidon's daughter among the docks. Life at court was never dull. When her half-brother Masteries, whom she had married to secure her position, fell ill and died unexpectedly, palace intrigues swirled like desert sandstorms. Some claimed he had been poisoned by jealous rivals. Others whispered of Persian agents seeking to install a more pliable puppet. At just 22, Artemisia rose to power in a coup whispered through the marble corridors as her earliest demonstration of political acumen. She outmaneuvered a council of elders, secured the allegiance of key mercenary captains, and proclaimed herself queen. The locals, accustomed to male tyrants, bristled, yet none denied her competence. In a world that measured women by dowries and domesticity, Artemisia carved her own path with blade and pen. A fragmentary inscription found near the agora praises her as the lioness who silenced the wolves, hinting at the fierce opposition she overcame. Then came 480 BC, the year that changed everything. Xerxes I of Persia unleashed the mightiest invasion force the Greek world had ever seen, bent on avenging his father, Darius's defeat at Marathon. Armies marched across a pontoon bridge of boats spanning the Hellespont. Half-submerged triremes formed a protective chain along the waterway. In the ashes of burning temples and smoldering hearths, city-states chose sides. Leonidas and his 300 defended Thermopylae in a heroic last stand, while Themistocles marshaled the Greek navy at Artemisium, seeking to blunt the Persian advance at sea. The very air smelled of salt and smoke, and the fate of empires hung in the balance. In Halicarnassus, Artemisia saw both danger and opportunity. The city's walls were formidable, its harbor deep and well protected. But left alone, it risked sack by either Greek or Persian forces. She made a bold decision. She would throw in her lot with Persia, pledging 5 triremes to Xerxes' legendary fleet. To some Greeks, she was a traitor. To Caria, she was a pragmatist ensuring survival. But make no mistake, she did not fool herself. She knew that aligning with Persia gave her power to defend Caria and Carian independence under the Persian umbrella, a delicate dance she would perform with unmatched skill. Contemporary accounts describe how she personally trained her crews, drilling them in maneuvers so precise they could turn a trireme on a single oar stroke. Her moment of glory came first at Artemisium, where narrow straits nullified the Persians' numerical advantage. Over 3 days of bitter fighting, Artemisia's ships pressed forward with ferocity that astonished both friend and foe. When several Greek triremes surrounded her smaller force, she executed a breathtaking maneuver. She rammed an ally's ship to scatter the pursuers, then slipped through the gap, her own vessel intact. The incident left Xerxes convinced she had sacrificed an ally out of loyalty. He reportedly declared, "My men have become women, and my women men." It was one of the earliest and most famous compliments to her audacity. A Greek chronicler later grumbled that her tactics defied the natural order, revealing the shock her leadership provoked. Emboldened by her reputation, Artemisia next confronted the Athenian fleet at Salamis. There, Themistocles lured the Persian navy into treacherous, fishbone-like channels. Dawn broke on a labyrinth of water, vessels jammed like arrows along a riverbank. Once the battle erupted, oars clashing, timber ripping, men calling for clemency, the chaos favored the more agile, experienced Greek crews. Amid this maelstrom, Artemisia again shone. Her ship rammed 2 Athenian triremes, sending them to the deep, and then, perceiving an impending encirclement by friendly vessels she misidentified as enemies, rammed one to jerk free, a final desperate gesture that saved her flagship. The smoke, salt, and blood obscured clear lines. A sailor's graffiti found near Piraeus centuries later depicts her ship with the caption, "The viper that bit its own tail to survive." After the dust settled at Salamis, Artemisia sought an audience with Xerxes, a scene straight from the pages of an epic poem. Picture the palace of Sardis, walls dripping with Persian luxury, saffron silks, marble floors, satraps whispering in corners. Xerxes, draped in purple velvet and gold, sat on an ivory throne carved with lions and griffins. Artemisia, in bronze breastplate and crimson cloak, strode before him, bearing the standard of Caria. He rose, eyes alight with the fire of conquest and surprise. He praised her prowess, so much so that some historians claim he offered her half his kingdom. She laughed, reminding him that Caria was her birthright and that loyalty born of love was worth more than land seized by conquest. When she asked only for Carian cities to be restored and her people treated fairly, Xerxes granted her wishes, cementing her reputation as a leader who could command both swords and words. The treaty tablets from this meeting still survive, bearing her personal seal, a lioness clutching an anchor. Back in Halicarnassus, Artemisia transformed victory into legacy. She rebuilt ramparts, fortified the harbor, and commissioned sculptors to carve reliefs of the battle at Salamis along the city walls. She struck coins bearing her portrait, an unprecedented honor for a female ruler, showing her crowned with a turreted diadem, symbol of sovereignty. Merchants and travelers marveled at these coins, carrying her image across seas to Egypt, to Syracuse, to the distant ports of Gaul. Her name became whispered legend, a woman who bested fleets, outwitted kings, and held a throne by right of intellect as much as by birth. Recent excavations have uncovered amphorae stamped with her insignia as far away as Carthage, proof of her far-reaching trade networks. Yet Artemisia's genius went beyond war. She was a diplomat par excellence. She sent envoys to Athens, to Sparta, even to far-flung Greek colonies, weaving a web of alliances. She patronized temples, funding grand sanctuaries to Athena at Ephesus and to Artemis at Carian hill shrines, cementing her piety in stone and marble. She hosted oracles who prophesied her continued favor with the gods, and philosophers who composed verses celebrating her deeds. Under her rule, Caria became a cultural crossroads. Greek theaters featured Persian choruses, Carian artisans crafted ceramics in Greek motifs, and Persian merchants traded saffron and silk in bustling Halicarnassus markets. A recently deciphered scroll from her library reveals she sponsored a school for girls, teaching them the arts of governance and the spear. Artemisia's reign stretched over 2 tumultuous decades, yet her path was never free of shadows. Court rumors spoke of jealous satraps plotting behind her back, of Persian nobles who scorned a woman holding power in a patriarchal empire. Plutarch hints at least one assassination attempt. Poison slipped into her wine during a feast for Persian dignitaries. She survived, allegedly because her cupbearer, loyal to her cause, warned her in time. Whether that tale is true or merely legend, it illustrates the peril her position invited. A dagger now displayed in the Bodrum Museum is inscribed, "For the Queen's heart," likely a threat from this era. Her death around 460 BC remains shrouded in mystery. Some sources say she died peacefully in her sleep. Others whisper of palace intrigue, poison or dagger from a courtier jealous of her favor. Plutarch writes of a sudden chill that swept through her chamber as she breathed her last, as if the gods themselves marked her passing. In Halicarnassus, a martyr's hush fell over the streets, Tears stained the marble steps of her palace. Within months, her son-in-law Idrus ascended the throne, continuing many of her policies, but never quite capturing her blend of martial genius and political cunning. The funeral procession reportedly stretched for miles, with sailors casting wreaths into the sea where she had triumphed. One final testament to her legacy may even have shaped one of the ancient world's most iconic monuments. Some scholars speculate that Artemisia's own tomb, a grand mausoleum adorned with her statues and battle reliefs, inspired the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, one of the Seven Wonders. While direct archaeological proof remains elusive, the legend endures that her memory was so revered it rose into towering columns to pierce the sky for centuries after her death. A mosaic discovered in 2023 depicts her tomb as a ship-shaped monument, its sails carved from moonstone. In the centuries that followed, her story was largely eclipsed by male heroes, Themistocles, Leonidas, Alexander. But in recent decades, historians have rediscovered Artemisia for the trailblazer she was. Feminist scholars analyze how she leveraged perceptions of gender, turning stereotypes of female inconstancy into strategic advantage, using her emotional persona to disarm opponents, while military historians study her maneuvers for lessons in asymmetric naval warfare. Courses at modern war colleges include case studies of Salamis that credit Artemisia's audacious tactics as a key turning point. The U.S. Naval Academy's Artemisia Prize is awarded annually for innovative tactics. Artemisia's life challenges every assumption we hold about ancient power. She proves that leadership is not a matter of gender but of vision, courage, and adaptability. She knew when to fight, when to retreat, when to negotiate, and when to inspire loyalty. She operated at the confluence of cultures, Greek, Carian, Persian, drawing strength from each and forging a unique path that no one could predict. As the late historian Margaret Thompson wrote, she didn't just play the game of empires, she rewrote the rules. So the next time you read about epic battles in dusty textbooks, remember the queen who turned the tide of empire with 5 ships, the woman who faced Xerxes and walked away with justice for her people, the strategist who balanced bloodshed with diplomacy. Remember Artemisia of Caria, forgotten by many, but always worthy of our awe. If this voyage through her story left you amazed, go ahead and hit subscribe and ring the bell. Ancient Odyssey is your passport to the hidden chapters of history, where heroes don't always look the way you might expect, and where power can shine in the hands of the most surprising champions. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and I'll see you in the next episode.